In this AlignMix video, you will learn how to set up your data in Excel so that you can easily import that data into AlignMix. Now, the first thing you need to do when setting up your data is make sure all of your column labels appear in the same row. And that's super important because that is how the software will recognize your data sets for the import process. Here on the screen, you'll see a basic account CRM export. Here you can see all of our data labels appear in row 1, but you don't have to have everything in row 1. You can have all of your labels appear in 2, 3, or any of the rows. As long as they are in the same row, you'll be able to import that data into AlignMix. And that applies for any type of data that you're importing. So in this example, it's account data. If we look at a zip to territory and hierarchy, you can see all of those labels also appear in row 1. If we're importing a sales rep list, again, all of your labels appear in row 1. So let's go back to our first tab and talk about the account data. So here, as I mentioned, is a very basic CRM-like export. The two things that are most important for importing your accounts is either having a name or an ID, and then their zip code. Those are the two things you need at a minimum to import your accounts into the AlignMix software. I highly recommend using a unique ID so that all your data can be linked to that unique ID, and then you can easily locate those accounts in the future. If you import without a unique ID for your accounts, AlignMix will create one for you, starting at 1, 2, 3, and then going down the list till all of your accounts have a number. Another thing I recommend having in your account list is a segmentation. Now, your company may not segment your accounts, and by that I mean having a different type of account type for your accounts. Take, for example, you sell sports drinks or energy drinks. You might have different customer types like big box retailers or online retailers, gas stations, vending machines, and then you could have that written here. So it would say convenience store, big box, or any other type of segmentation that you use. And the reason I recommend using a segmentation system here for your accounts is that when you import that data into AlignMix, all your segments will appear as different icons on the map. Moving down the list here, we also have accounts assigned to territories, which is useful because those accounts can be assigned to territories during your import, but it's not required. And the same goes for your sales rep assignments. And then moving down to the final section here, we've got some numeric data that you can import into AlignMix, linked to your accounts, and also text-based data that will be linked to each unique ID. So let's move on to a zip to territory file. Now, this is the type of file that you would use to create geographic sales territories in your AlignMix file. So as I mentioned earlier, all of our column labels appear in row 1, and then we've got a zip code assignment for everything. And you need that geography in order to import any data into AlignMix. So if you're using 5-digit US zip codes, then you need zip codes to import that data. If you're working in a Canadian map, then all of your data would need to have the FSAs linked to each data set. So if you were importing accounts into a Canadian map, these would all have to be FSAs. If you imported FSAs into a zip code map, they would appear as errors. So you always have to make sure that your data sets match the geography you're planning to use for the import. So here we have our zip to territory assignments. At a minimum, all you need is column A and B, and this will create your geographic sales territories. The software will look at every zip code in this list and assign it to a territory. If your company also has a territory name, then you can import both ID and name. If you just have one of the two, then you can import that data into ID or name, and AlignMix will duplicate that field for both of them in the software. Moving down the line here, we also have district and region assignments. So in this Excel file here, you can import zip codes, assign zip codes to territories, and then territories can be assigned to districts and districts assigned to regions. So you're able to build a hierarchy out of one simple import. Let's move down the line here and look at our zip code population data. If you planned on importing just zip code based data, which means data linked to a zip code, which most often is population data or demographic data, then again you need all of your column labels to appear in the same row. But this time you just need column A, which is your zip codes, and then your data set. So AlignMix will locate each zip code and link it to this data set here. So now let's take a look at a sales rep roster. Again, like in every Excel file I've showed you, all of our column labels appear in the same row. And here we have the name of every single sales rep and their home zip code. These are the two things you need at a minimum to import your sales rep locations into AlignMix. Doing so will place an icon representing each sales rep on the map. You can also import an ID if you have a unique ID for every sales rep, and also their assignments. So in this case, it's their sales territory assignments. The software will go down the list and locate each zip code, place an icon representing each sales rep, and assign them to a territory. Now you may be wondering, doesn't that automatically happen when I import my sales accounts from the first tab? Well, it creates that assignment, but the software doesn't know where to place your sales rep icons. So that's why you still would need to do a sales rep import in order for AlignMix to know where their home zip codes are in order to place those sales rep icons in the correct home zip code. So to recap, the most important things to remember when creating your data sets for import into AlignMix is to have all of your column labels appear in the same row and also always have that base geography. Without the base geography, you will be unable to import any data into AlignMix. And there you go. You've just learned how to set up your data in Excel so that you can easily import that data into AlignMix.